and thank you to all of you for coming to these days. I hope the microphones are working. Yeah, that's good. That's excellent. So thank you very much for organizing this event and also for inviting me to launch it, because I see that there is big interest in the room for this topic. So I think that we could herald it under the slogan, everybody goes digital, because I think this is exactly what we need to do in the coming months and years. I think that you already noticed that we are trying to introduce the new culture, new tools, new IT possibilities, and to manage more and more files digitally. That we are trying to introduce something which I would call e-simplification in most of the routine operations you have to do, which have been done by many months and years on paper, and now we're trying to do them through the IT tools, because it's much more efficient and it's much more easy to do, and it saves a lot of time and energy. And I think that this would be the trend we have to use much more in our interaction with our partners, colleagues in the Commission, but also with our stakeholders, more and more with our citizens, and of course in the communication with our staff. The IT tools are also changing the nature of our work. We have to be much more interactive. We have to be fast in answering the questions. We have to be ready for more involvement of our staff, of our citizens, and also we have to be prepared for the more collaboration with our colleagues. And of course, we do not just want to be in the position that we know about what's going on, but if we want to be modern administration, we have to be able to lead in this area as well. And it's not easy, because every single day there is something new which comes up. I learned about the expression like nowcasting instead of forecasting, meaning that through all these social media networks you can like make the forecast for the popularity of certain politician or the popularity of certain measure you suggest just right now, by simply having the possibility to count how many clicks been on this or other piece of information, and the analyst can tell you how this politician or how that proposal is popular and supported by the people or not. We are learning about crowdsourcing, where very often if you just put the problem out there into the cyberspace, very often you get very good proposals, very good ideas, and sometimes even your problem is solved by the crowds out there who are very active and following the events, are naturally interested in public domain or in what's going on in the cyberspace. And I think that this pushed also the Commission to think absolutely differently about how we communicate with our citizens, how we use the IT media, and how we approach this new phenomenon of the social media. I think that the ACTA was such a last call, which also helped me to convince more and more colleagues in the college to become involved on the social media, that even our generation finally opened the Facebook pages, that we learn how to use Twitter, and I'm very proud that now also our president of the Commission is using Twitter and using it very actively. And I think it goes well with the tendency, because you probably noticed that now the European Council meetings are not announced through the traditional letters or the press releases, they are announced through Twitter. The same goes about the Eurogroup, where the new chair of the Eurogroup also announced that when this crucial session on last Sunday would be held. It was just announced through the one sentence on Twitter. So you are somehow expected to know, to be there, to know what's going on in the social space. And I think that it would be more and more of this in the future. Coming back to this ACTA phenomenon, I can tell you honestly that we've been genuinely surprised at why there are thousands and thousands of young people on the freezing squares and in the streets protesting against ACTA. Because also the decision makers and the politicians and the commissioners be not that present on the social media at that time. If we would be there, we would know that there is actually the electronic petition going on, which in the end ended up with almost 3 million signatures protesting against ACTA. The other thing was that, as we see it, on the false ground, because it was presenting like a proposal which is limiting the internet freedom, which you do not see as such in the Commission. But the fact was that we lost that communication battle, because the side which was protesting against ACTA, the side which was describing how negatively this could influence the freedom of internet, already won the battle of the social media. We came later on with our press release, with our explanations, with the full press coverage, why we think that we need ACTA for the future. But of course, already the public opinion was made up, and now, of course, it's very, very difficult to react with such a delay and to present the good arguments. So I think that the lesson from this was we need to follow on what's on the social media, what's written about the Commission, about our proposals. And my proposal was and still would be to you as a digital leaders in your DGs that your communication units should definitely follow on what's on the social media network, what's been written about your DG, about the proposals you made, and how you can participate and, if necessary, shape this debate. Because this is where most of the communication and discussions will take place in the future, and definitely when we see the generation which is today in the schools and universities will become the involved citizens who expect this type of the communications from us. The same goes to the overall using of the digital skills and digital tools. And I think that we in the Commission also do a lot in this sphere. I mean, one program on which I'm particularly proud is the digital, and it's part of the digital agenda for Europe, and this is the ISA program for interoperability solutions for EU public administration. What does it mean? Together with our colleagues with Digit, we are trying to create the platforms for the for the e-government, where you can actually get the Portuguese businessmen to communicate with, let's say, Estonian tax office and exchange the information, and hopefully each of them in their own language. It's technically possible. We are working on it, and this is how we want to take down the remaining digital barriers on the single market, with very often platform incompatibility or language barriers are really preventing the citizens, the businessmen, young people, students to actually benefit from the single market of 500 million people. And I'm sure that this is also clearly the way what we have to do in the future, and what the citizens and businesses and the member states would clearly expect from us. If you look through the country-specific recommendations which we issued the last year, and which now will be a repetitive process, and each year we'll try to advise the member states what we think should be the crucial areas on which they have to focus the activities, then the efforts, you would find in most of the country-specific recommendations a special paragraph on modernizing of the public administration. Of course, by that we mean that we need to improve the analytical skills and overall quality and stability of the public service in the member states. But at the same time, we also mean by that that they should use more and more of the e-government tools, because this is how they can dramatically improve the output of the administration, how they can modernize their work, and how they can interact better with the citizens. The usual example I use is that Belgium changed the way how you can file tax returns here. They did it in, I would say, very simple, but also at the same time very transformative, even dramatic way. Suddenly they said, you can file your taxes only via internet, only via this screen. We do not need your papers. If you find certain anomaly, we'll come and check. So you better keep them with yourself. And of course, what happened was that suddenly you do not need to send these tons of papers to the offices of the tax officials in Belgium, because everything is done electronically. You can use your software to check if there are any anomalies, if there are any problems. You have much better control over the financial flows and increases the tax collection, and at the same time it increases the efficiency tremendously. And that's just one example. If you would go to Austria, Estonia, or to other countries, you would find many, many more of them. And I think clearly the e-government is the future for the member states, but also for us in the Commission. And of course, that requires exactly why or for what you came here, to acquire, improve much better digital competence. And I think for us it would be very crucial, because I think you already heard a lot about the fact that we need to do more and better with less. And I think that this is very clear also after the last European Council decisions, where it's very clear that if we want to offer what is our duty, the high-level service to our citizens, we'll have to improve our efficiency, we'll have to improve our internal working processes, and we'll also have to create the economies of scale in using our resources better, to get more out of our IT, to employ new technologies, to work more with electronic workflows, to store our data better and more collectively, and to also have instant interaction with our stakeholders, with our partners, and with our citizens. And it's quite clear that this is not easy process, because it requires very deep cultural change. Because very much in the Commission, and it was built over the years, we developed something which you know very well, and which is called silo mentalities. And this would simply not work in the modern world, because you see it already today if you come, for example, with these new requirements, a new approach to the economic governance. When we want to help the countries like Portugal, Ireland, Cyprus, or Greece, we can really discover that what you need is actually the task forces, because you need experts for taxation, you need experts for the social affairs, you need experts for the public administration. Very often you have specific problems related to energy or related to climate change and different challenges these countries are facing. I think that maybe already in the new Commission they would even have to introduce something like the country desk for our member states, if we want to offer better and deeper advice than we are offering today. So clearly we would have to go in the way through interdisciplinary task forces, interdisciplinary teams, and it doesn't mean that you have to have these units or the group sitting in one room, because today you have possibilities how you can actually work together with your friends using the IT tools. But that requires breaking up of the silos, and this is something on which we have to work hard in the Commission. And of course, I think we have to do it in the double challenge the Commission will face in the next year. Of course, one is the cut of our personnel, but second also it will be a big change at the helm of our organizations. You know it quite well that up to 60% of the managers in the Commission will retire by the end of the decade. So we have to prepare our new managers for these positions, and we have to already introduce this new culture of collaborative management and collaborative cooperation for the future. So new technologies are very clearly bringing in the positive elements like more openness, more transparency, more flexibility, collaboration, sharing, innovation processes. And of course, it requires the changes in the behavior. And I would say, totally new look how we look at the changes of our processes. Because one of the lessons I heard from the people who've been introducing these e-government tools was that don't try to use your old processes, your classical paper flows, and put the computers on it, because it will not work. On top of it, you still will be tempted to do the paper flow and at the same time to do the electronic one as well. So actually not helping your organization or your colleagues, you're actually doubling their work and you are making them nervous that they have to do the two things at the same time. So what is really necessary is very often, I would say, the complete reinvention of the business cycle. That you have to look at it from the point of view how we can really simplify. What kind of stages are not necessary? Do we really have to print this out or print that out? Do we need it on paper? It's really enough just to have it in the electronic form. And I'm fully aware that we are an organization which very much relies on legal advice, legal opinion, and some of the announcement we really have to deliver on paper. But I think if you want to really use the modern tools to our benefit, we have to think differently about our business processes and to adjust them to this new age and adjust them to the new IT tools. And I think that the best thing how to do it would be to encourage your staff who are very good with this new IT tool, who have this strong digital competence. So please be active, be proactive, come up with your solutions, with your proposal, how we can simplify this thing, how we can use our IT tools better to the benefit of the whole unit, DG, or the Commission, because the people who are actually working or a part of these processes, very often they can be the best advisors and best innovators if it comes to this modernization and this e-change we are all looking for. Then of course these new tools offer to the managers and to the staff better interaction, better listening to each other, the more possibilities for the bottoms-up initiatives, and it also allows the managers to feel a little bit better the pulse of the organizations. I think we've been experimenting for some time with Yammer. It became the tool which was brought in by the couple of enthusiasts at the DG Com. It became very popular. Now we have I think Norman mentioned more than 8,000 people who are participating in the Yammer discussions. I joined it as well. I try every day just to glance through it, what's the buzz, what's going on, what is the issues the staff is discussing today, because you can get the feel what is on the mind of your colleagues in the organizations. We organized some of the Yammer chats, which I think was quite big success. At least I have seen that we've been able to answer in that 1 or 2 hours of the chat with our colleagues something like 20–30% of the questions, and the rest was then up to the DG HR to manage. And I know that they've been struggling with it for a couple of more days to answer all the questions. But the good thing was that this time you got the quick answer. So it was not the usual very careful answer which was cleared by the legal service and checked by I don't know how many heads of units, and once you got the answer that you have to have a coffee, you have to put your glasses, and you have to be absolutely focused on what the answer tells you, because it's so carefully written. This was very quick reaction from the colleagues to the colleagues. In your place I would do this, or I think that you are wrong, or I think you should look up your answer here and there. And it was also a bit of a new, I'm sure, for those who've been putting the question, but also for us who've been trying to answer to your question. And I think that this is something which will be used more in the future. I know that Irene have had certain chats like this with her management team, and I know that other directors generals and commissioners are all doing it or are thinking about how to use this new platform for communicating with the staff. At the same time, we have to be also ready for the new extremely popular phenomena which are very attractive, but which are a little bit difficult to use in the Commission. For example, the cloud computing. When I was asking what does it mean, if somebody can explain it to me, what does it mean, cloud computing, I think the best explanation I got was that cloud computing is allowing to give the power of supercomputer to anybody who wants it. You are a scientist, you are an accountant, you are a stockbroker on Wall Street. If you want, today you can get the power of supercomputer to do the calculation, statistic, or whatever you need for you, for relatively modest fee. You can store the billions of data in the cloud. You do not need to have your data center. You can do it all for you. But the fact is that we are the public administration which has to be very careful with the data, which has to respect all the norms and the rules like the data protection. And of course we know that there are actually millions of people depending on our data. There are millions of businesses who have all the sensitive information in our data centers, and therefore we also have to be very careful how we can use this new technology for what it's useful, and where we still need to be extremely cautious how we are managing and handling the data. So it will also require to be very creative. How can we use these new tools to the benefit of the Commission, to the benefit of the citizens, and at the same time, how we use it to the extent that we would not in any way threaten our duties we have to the safe storage of data and safe management of the information we are preserving and guarding for others and for the future. Coming back to the communication for the last, in my introductory remarks, because I presume some of the questions might be related to this area as well. The power of the social media, our presence there is absolutely crucial. Of course, I'm observing it on my kids, where these university students or high school kids are getting most of the information. I have to disappoint most of the journalists. It's definitely not TV news. It's definitely not radio news. It's Facebook, Twitter, or different kinds of social sites, which is the key source of the information for the younger generation. If it's good or bad, it's difficult to judge, but this is the way how it's going to be. That this information could be manipulated, that it's very narrow, that it's very selective. It's true as well, but I don't think that we can just overlook that phenomenon. I think that if we want to be part of the news, if we want to be part of what the incoming generation is thinking about Europe, we simply have to also adjust how we are messaging our messages and using these new platforms. I think that I learned a lot how difficult it is also through the European Citizens Initiative, because the idea behind it is great. 1 million citizens can ask the Commission to propose this initiative or to change that directive. And we believe that we put on the table free, user-friendly software for the free use of our citizens. Later on, we discovered that it's not that easy, that for that you need to have powerful server, which must be, of course, stored in secure location, and that all this costs the money. And to install it, you have to have at least a PhD in computer scientist. And of course, this is not, I would say, the usual sample you have among the European citizen and among the organizing committee. So we had to do a lot. We had to do a lot. Thanks to Digit, we had to over our servers. I had to communicate several times with the Luxembourgish minister, who was very helpful and allow us to give us the much faster verification paper, so we can actually install our own software to our own server to serve the citizens. But still, I saw that it's quite a challenge. But I believe that this is such a forewarning what is ahead of us, because what I see is happening in Europe. For example, in different lenders in Germany, they are using so-called e-tools much more intensely than anybody else. They use it, for example, and I know that SecGen wouldn't like it very much, for proposing amendments to the laws. They are putting the proposal or the draft laws out there, and under the framework of e-democracy, they're asking the citizens, what do you think about this law? Do you think that you would be supportive of this? What do you think should be changed? And actually the citizens are quite active. And I think that once we would have all in our purses, and I think it's a matter of years, electronic e-ID cards, and the part of every computer would be e-card reader, it would be much easier for any government, for any agency to actually collect the opinions from the citizens. What do you think about this law? What do you think about that politician? What do you think about these proposals? I think down the road 5 to 10 years, we have seen that more and more of the elections will be done via internet, as it is already the case in Estonia. And we would see that the involvement of the citizens would be much, much easier through these e-ID cards with all these verification procedures, data storage, and all this will be simply eliminated by the fact that you are identified through your e-ID card. And then, of course, would mean for the better and for worse, but we have to be prepared for it, much stronger involvement and much stronger opinion coming straight from the citizens to the decision makers, to the politicians, and to us here in the commissions. Therefore, I'm particularly glad that today we have our first digital competence day. I would suggest that once this environment is changing so rapidly and every year there is something new, it would be good if it could be regular even, because I think in this way, I think we just simply would need to be upgrading our skills continuously. And it would also, I'm sure, bring a lot of ideas to you, to your workplaces, but you will be also feeding back to the DG HR, to DG, to us in the Commission, your proposals, how we can use these modern e-tools better for the future. I have to say that I very much like the digital times. There are some of the stories which are showing very well what is possible, what is not possible. I learned about things I didn't know before, that how many collaborative sites do we have in the Commission, what DG Connect, DG EACT, what DG HR are doing, how we are using Yammers and other communication tools. And I think that it would be good if some kind of part of it could be the regular part of Commission Indirect, or if we can have some kind of corner on my Intracom, what new do we do in this digital work? Because I think it would clearly serve as inspirations to others. At the beginning, I was speaking about the nowcasting, how you can predict something, what will happen already now. I'm not that good. I will just end up by forecasting. And my forecast is very simple, that it will definitely need much more digital skills in the future. And therefore, thank you very much all for coming over here and being so interested in this new world, in the new tools, because I believe that it will help us in the Commission to do a better job for our citizens. Thank you very much.